All right, hello everybody. Welcome back. Another edition live at Drew's house. Hope everybody's doing okay out there. Getting through September, man. Moving right through. Where'd September go? Fall. Hi, Sa. How are you?
Hi, Drew.
What's going on? Welcome back. People have missed you. You haven't been around in a little while.
No, I've been busy.
Back to school.
Back to school.
How's it going?
It's interesting.
I'm just going to turn this up here a little bit. Any horror stories?
It's a lot right now.
It's a lot.
Be nice to your teachers. I do feel bad for parents too, because it's a lot on them at home.
Yeah.
It's just not a good situation for anyone, I don't think. But
well, it's good to have you back.
Thanks.
We're talking marathon today because, well, we have so many memories from, of course, the marathon bombing and that week that was. We actually had some runners on just a week or two ago talking about how they were in the virtual marathon. There's so many emotions that go into the marathon these days, pretty much every year, and it will be that way through the end of time just because of what happened here during the marathon bombings. Do you remember where we were that was a crazy week. I know I was still going into work. We were hunkered down living in Boston. That was a crazy week. What do you remember about that?
That was a crazy week. Well, we were over near Fenway for the marathon, right?
Yeah, we were in Kenmore Square.
Yeah, Cornwalls. We were at Cornwalls.
Yeah, my buddy's bar there.
Yep. And I think we saw it. Didn't we see it on the news first?
Yeah, it was that weird situation where everybody's watching it on the TV and you're in Boston and this massive event has just happened a few blocks down and everybody's going, wait, what?
So my sister was right in the thick of it. I can't remember the name of that bar that she was at, but she had just left one of those bars that got hit really hard.
Yeah, I'm blanking too on the name of that.
And we were
there. It was their surveillance camera that helped identify one of the suspects.
Yeah, she was right there with Andruzzi.
Joe Andruzzi. Good memory. Yes, the New England Patriot. Yeah.
So I just went for a run. That's why I look beat red.
You're fine.
And so we were going to meet her and we saw the news and then I couldn't get in touch with her. So that was scary because everyone was trying to use their phones. So then we were trying to go find her and I don't know, it's just such a weird situation. I don't think we really knew what was going on until a while afterwards. She was fine. She had left that bar and she got out of there fine and everything, and we were obviously fine, but it was.
You know what I always say was a crazy moment was when because like you said, so many people didn't know what was happening. We decided to get out and just instinctively walk towards the finish line. That's, I guess they weren't going to let us anywhere close when it was all said and done, but I mean, just we wanted to go down there. You wanted to see your sister, whatever. So we're walking in that direction. And, you go by like all the kids at BU and they're having parties on their stoops and they had no idea what had happened either. The music is blaring, there's drinking going on. So you're walking by and it's one big party scene. People are still running. But then there was like, as you got closer, those worlds like kind of merged, people crying because they had been down there. And that was something that always stuck with me. I'll never forget that, is those kind of worlds merging on the streets of Boston.
Yeah, it was crazy. That is what it was like. It was like half the people had no idea what was going on. They were partying.
Yeah. The
other half of the people were in a nightmare. So it was weird. And you couldn't get in touch with anyone because I think everyone was just using their phones at the same time or something. I don't know what happened, but remember that? We couldn't get in touch with my sister.
Yep.
My mom was trying to get in touch with us. It's a whole crazy, man, that whole week. I mean, it was one thing after another, and then they had the lockdown. We were living in Brighton at the time, so we were actually pretty close to the whole thing.
And then, of course, a couple of nights later was the horrendous shooting of Sean Collier, the police officer, and his sister is actually going to join us here in just a moment, which is, I've never met her before, but her family is coming out to speak out about the, how would you call it? The attitudes towards police these days, I guess, is the safe way to say it.
Yeah.
Their family is speaking out this week about that and not happy with it. And they would like to see, well, I won't put words in her mouth. We'll get her on here in just a moment. But remember that night? Do you remember what we were doing that night? It was horrible, that news. I mean, the night we came home, you got it? Do you remember?
Yeah, I know. We went
Yeah.
to the Fleetwood Mac concert.
Another good memory. Very good.
So we had finished the concert. We heard it. We were listening to the news on the way home, and we heard the shooting at MIT.
Yep.
And I believe I turned to you and I said, I wonder if that has to do with the bombings.
You thought it was connected, which was crazy. It was kind of crazy that we were at a concert that night. I always mention that. I feel like that was like they had just ended the lockdown, I think, that day. And then it seemed somewhat odd to be going to a concert that night. At the time, it didn't feel odd.
There was like 2 lockdowns. It was like one.
Yeah.
And then they ended it, and then we went right back into it.
I think the story goes on that. I don't think it's ever actually been like officially said, but I think there was rumors that they thought he might have been in the Tsarnaevs may have been in New York. I don't think they would have. I don't think they would have let the people out of the, back into the city if they thought they were still out there. But then, of course, they weren't. And the horrible shooting of Sean Collier happened. So we're talking with his sister Nicole today. Again, who I've never met. I'm looking forward to meeting her. We were young in Brighton for the marathon bombings. Sean was a young police officer. I think for so many people our age, that all just hit really close to home and was just really, it's a brutal thing no matter what age you are, but for whatever reason, it just hit really, it was a tough one when that happened. And we'll talk with Nicole. We'll see. I'm sure that never goes away, but we'll see how she's doing, and we'll talk about what the family's talking about here this week. So good to have you back, Sarah. I think you're going to go back to your school duties.
Yep, I'm going to let you do this one.
Thanks for coming on.
Good to see you.
And we'll bring in Nicole right now. All right, here we go. So Nicole Lynch is the, first of all, Nicole, thanks for coming on the show. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Very good. So your brother, as I just mentioned in the intro, Sean Collier, who of course we all remember what a tragic loss in those days after the Boston Marathon bombings. And I was just telling my wife, it's something, I was living in Boston at the time, and it was that whole sequence of, that whole week, it's almost like I'll never forget like any moment of it. Whether you're working in news or a teacher like she is, it's just being in Boston during that time period. There was just so much tragedy. You're just so alert through it all. And when that happened to your brother, it was, I remember coming home, we were just talking about how I was at a Fleetwood, we had snuck out just to get one thing done for of enjoyment after a tough few days, and they had let the city go back. And we had just come back from a Fleetwood Mac concert when I got the news, which I thought was very strange that they held that concert looking back on it. But I remember getting that news late night that an officer had been shot, and just what a horrible thing. I know it's been years, but I know it's something you probably think about every day, if I had to guess.
Yes, it is, for sure.
How is the family doing, first of all? Everybody doing okay through the pandemic? It's not a easy time to be doing anything these days.
It's definitely not an easy time. It's hard because we don't really get to see each other very much. I work in healthcare, so I'm front lines dealing with COVID, and for that reason, I tend to space myself from the family as well.
Well, thank you for your service in that regard. That is not an easy thing these days. How do you feel? I guess we'll get sidetracked here first for 1 second. How do you feel about how the state, how are the people doing combating COVID around here? Are you happy, satisfied, not happy?
I think, of course, we've heard some stories of people not doing what they should be doing, but I think for the most part, people have been doing great. Our state is doing really well comparatively.
Okay, very good. Good to hear that from a frontline worker. Your family is this week speaking out against the. I guess I was trying to find the right words for this earlier, but the negative attitudes, I guess, towards police, and in some cases a lot worse. But it's obviously something that hits close to home with you guys. Obviously, very supportive of police. What is your take here? I think we have a newspaper release that you guys are going to be playing this week in the Boston Globe. Tell me a little bit about just your family's stance on the attitudes towards police here.
Well, of course, my brother was kind of he was one of the best. He was great. Community policing was so important to him. Getting involved with the community, getting to know the people that he served was his way of being amazing at his job. And, I think for us, we support everyone, and we know that, we want there to be a positive outlook on the police. And, we've been able to do so much through his memorial fund to be able to help with that positive outlook towards the police.
Yeah, you all have done a great job with that. I hear all sorts of stories about the fund. What about the? I think I have not taught. I've had police officers on this show, and almost I have not heard any of them say that they see like the George Floyd case, for instance, and all of them say that it's just horrible, horrible police work. That is you're not going to find anybody who supports that guy should go away and all that stuff. They get that. I do think sometimes people forget how hard of a job policing is. I just wonder, there's so many different stories that even during this pandemic, it just seems like everything's so in the spotlight. I wonder, it's a tough thing to kind of get your head around sometimes, isn't it? Just the job of a police officer and what actually happened in certain situations.
It is. And I think that for most of us, we would never understand the stress that they are put through emotionally and mentally. And I think that, hopefully there'll be some focus on helping them in the future as well.
And I keep saying, and, I don't want to attack slogans or anything, but like I think that defund the police slogan is kind of a harmful slogan just because I think anybody who thinks the world without police officers I don't necessarily think that's the greatest idea. I think most people in their right minds agree with that. And I think sometimes people take those slogans and kind of run with them in different directions, which I think can be harmful. Anyways, your take on the defund the police slogan, I guess I'll let you speak to that because I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I think that obviously there have been some stories out there in the news that have been really hard to hear as far as both against police and also, for police too. And I think that it's important that police play such an important role as far as keeping our communities safe. They also play such a huge role in just helping children as well and kind of showing them that number one, the police are somebody that you can go to. And, you see those stories on the news about them stopping to toss a football with a child. And I think people understand how far that goes in a child's life. So I think in general, defund the police is extremely harmful to our community and our country.
Again, Nicole Lynch joining us. She's the sister of Sean Collier, of course, killed days after the Boston Marathon bombings. What would he say about all this? Would he kind of keep his nose down and keep working, or would he be outspoken, you think?
He was not such an outspoken person. So I think that the way he would have handled it is, you need to be part of the change, and he would have been out there and he would have been doing good, and he would have been doing everything that he could have to try and change the outlook on police with the community. And that's how he would have made that change. Did he know he always, was that like his only goal was to be a police officer? Yeah. Yes. From the time he could talk. Yes. American flags everywhere. We had to salute the American flag no matter where we saw it. It was always black and white, no gray. It was right and wrong. I am speaking to you from Danvers, Massachusetts, which is where I live, doing these shows from my kitchen these days. That's 2020 life. But I don't know if you saw this a couple of weeks ago. There was a big protest in our town because the town manager had ordered the thin blue line flags taken off the fire trucks and all of that. And a lot of people in my town were not happy about that. And there was a small protest that I believe was originally in support of the town manager that was quickly kind of overtaken by a bigger protest, and then it kind of turned into something else. We won't get into all that, but nevertheless, there still are a lot of people in my town that are very upset about the thin blue line flags being taken off, and this isn't the only community. I can imagine your stance on that is also not happy with a move like that in these communities. No, I mean, I support the thin blue line and what it stands for from its ground roots. And I think that it's important. I guess I can definitely see from the people that are fearful of the police, how maybe that symbolizes something else. But I think ultimately the symbolism of it is just support of the police and support of each other and support for those that gave the ultimate sacrifice.
It is such a horrible, I mean, I've had this talk with family members and friends, and it's a hard thing to get your head around, because the Thin Blue Lines, I mean, they've been there for, I'm not sure how long they've been on the fire trucks in Danvers, but they've been there for a long time, and we're always seen as a show of support. I guess the devil's advocate on that is that if a certain community of people, for instance, the Black community is if they're upset with how policing is going and they want reforms, they see that as a slap in the face every time they see it. I guess that is the devil's, I hope I don't put words in their mouths, but that is the argument as to why the town managers would have those removed. So it really is not an easy situation. I think people can see that side of it as well.
I imagine that it was probably a very difficult decision for the town manager.
Yes, and judging by all the people on his front lawn of work, I think it's has not been an easy few weeks. But back to the policing as a whole, I do wonder, how has it been? I know how tight police are. Never mind after somebody's lost in their family. How has life been like since your brother was killed? Has it made you closer with so many of these police officers that have become a bigger extended part of your family?
They are. I can call any of them any hour of the day, and I know that they would be there.
At any moment, really?
Yeah.
Do you ever take them up on that, or do you just know it's in your back pocket?
No, it's in my back pocket if I need it.
That is, but I mean, it is funny. I mean, I always say, if you ever see if you saw your brother's funeral, I mean, it's such a moving thing. I try watching that with and not get teared up, because I mean, the police do it right, and they come out from all over the place to support, and it's quite a community, and I'm glad you've still have that support after all these years. I know you will for your entire lifetime. So
yes.
We just had I talked to some runners here the other day who ran the virtual marathon. It's a lot different this year. Kind of, I was thinking it's probably going to be kind of lame, but I got to tell you, everybody I talked with seemed to really make the best of it and make their own routes. And one of the underlying themes that I kept hearing was, it is so much, obviously it would be great to run the route. Even the first timers were like, I so didn't plan it this way. But really this 26.2 is about a whole lot more than just running that certain 26.2. And they think back to those the marathon bombings, and they think back to whatever causes they're running for. And, usually they're tough situations that they're raising money for. And I love hearing those emotional stories about the marathon. I wonder, when marathon day comes around for you, it must be a lot of emotions come back to you. What is the thought on Marathon Monday, or in this case, Marathon Virtual Week?
So, I mean, Virtual Week was definitely a little bit different for us, and even for our foundation, it was very different. It kind of just brings back a sense of just pride for being in this area. Our community has really embraced our family and all the families that were affected. And I think that that's important to understand, that there is positive stuff that have come out of this. And that's what I know Sean would want us to focus on. And so the marathon is one of those positive things now, that everyone has this sense of pride.
Again, we're talking here with Nicole Lynch, the older sister of Sean Collier. And you said you have some other siblings too. Is everybody doing okay, by the way, through the pandemic? Whole family?
They are. Yep. Yeah, everybody's been doing good.
And and if they're not, you're a frontline medical worker, so you can be there for treatment.
Luckily, they haven't called me.
Please don't call me. I'm very busy. What about, I mean, this whole quarantine has been like, there's been just story after story of just, I guess when it rains, it pours is probably a accurate description of 2020. And obviously you've had these, the Black Lives Matter protests on the streets. You had this horrible shooting just, a week or two ago of these police officers in Los Angeles, which is just brutal. And, there's surveillance of it, and it's hard. I wonder, every time you see this sort of, that's extreme, obviously, but even just police fighting on the streets or whatever, is there part of that maybe makes you cringe is the wrong word, but there's got to be like a soft spot for you when you see those actions by police officers on the streets?
I mean, there's absolutely a soft spot for me in my heart. And every time I hear about a police officer down or, one killed, one shot, it kind of takes me back to a place that I feel for their families. I know what they're going through, and it's heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. I told you I was in Boston the night your brother was shot. Where were you, and how'd the family deal with that? Because I don't think I've ever.
Oh, I actually was at home. I had 3 very small children at the time. So I was at home with them, and I was actually following along on Twitter. So I knew that there was a shooting, then I knew that there was a police officer shot, and then I knew that it was an MIT police officer. And at that point I knew it was Sean. It's a very strange feeling. It was in my gut. I knew it was him.
Before you even heard the name, you said.
Before I knew, before anyone had called us, I just felt it in my gut, and I knew it was him, and I knew that he didn't make it. I just felt that. And unfortunately my gut was right. And we got the call from MIT police. I, unfortunately, because I live a little bit further north of the city, found out through the news media that it was him and he was dead on my way into the hospital.
I know that's a tough night, but do you call the parents first? And
they called my parents, and then our parents called us, called down the line and told us all to get to MGH as soon as possible.
I know your parents are very big behind these statements that we're going to be hearing from you this week. I know there's going to be a printout in the paper. Did you want to read what is written there? I know I don't want to jump the gun on that, but it's a picture of your brother that people are going to start seeing in the paper. And
I actually don't have the statement right in front of me.
If you want to read it, you can. It's fine by me.
I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, you don't have it in front of you. I'm sorry.
No.
You're like, don't put me under that pressure. I think I have it if you would like me to do it. It was sent to me by your people here. As I pull it up, let's see. And this is going to air in the, okay. Here, I'll just, maybe I should just show a picture of this. I think this will work here. That's what you're going to see in the newspaper tomorrow. So,
yeah. So that was his academy picture.
That's the academy picture?
Yes.
Okay. Anyways, I'll let everybody read it in the papers tomorrow on their own time. But this has been obviously something that has your family feels very strongly about. Was it your parents who said, you know what, I just need to say something, or was it one of the siblings? Was it you? I don't know. Who was kind of the one that spearheaded all this and said, I need to make my voice heard on this on behalf of my son?
My parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I wonder, I can imagine that they probably thought, because I mean, I know they're not going to get too much flack for this, because I mean, nobody has more of a right to say anything than they do, of course. I wonder, do they, in this moment though, of just everything is so super hypersensitive, did anybody in the family almost say, maybe we should let things simmer down a little bit? Or was it, you know what, this is the time, we got to do it now?
No, I don't think any of us felt like we needed to let it simmer down. I mean, I think that maybe we need to hear some good stories about good cops. And I think people need to understand that, there's bad seeds in every field. And unfortunately, these stories are making the news right now. Yeah,
and there certainly are good stories. I graduated high school with a lot of friends that are cops in my hometown of Danvers right now. And I will tell people too, I tell people this all the time, whenever they see a story like the George Floyd situation where they see bad policing, those police officers cringe, because they know it's horrible work and they know that their jobs haven't been made easier. So I do think of that when I see those things. And people, of course, have a right to be upset when they see those actions too, but anyways, I always think that should be said. Nicole Lynch, where are we talking to you from, by the way? Where are you coming to us from?
Drake-it.
Okay. Very good. So you flew back from work today. Were you in the hospital today?
So I work in an outpatient clinic, but yes.
Oh, outpatient. Okay. Very good. The Massachusetts numbers, I just got an alert. I think we're still trending in the right direction here on COVID. So that's a good thing as I look. It seems to be the general theme. Massachusetts, one of the better states, right?
Yes, we are definitely one of the better states right now. So hopefully everyone can keep doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Are you worried about the flu?
I'm more worried about being able to distinguish the flu from COVID. I'm a little bit worried about how that's going to all play out.
Okay, good point. And lastly, one other part of the news too I wanted to ask you about, because it's obviously very connected to everything Boston Marathon. And this just, again, another thing that played out in 2020. This is, you think about all the stories in 2020, and it has not been a great year. Just your thoughts on, obviously, Jahar Tsarnaev was taken off death row. And I know that a lot of victims' families were very upset about that. What was the reaction from your family when the judge made that ruling a few months ago?
I mean, of course, initially it was pretty upsetting to hear when we first heard it. I know for me personally, once I had some time to sit with it, process it, I did read all 244 pages of the judge's report. I did. I read it all. So once I was able to kind of process it, ultimately, law and fairness has to prevail. And if that's what needed to happen, then that's what needed to happen.
I think that's well said right there, and good for you for reading the whole report. I'm sure you're not the only one. That's fantastic work. Nicole Lynch, I will say I am 33, about to be 34, so you can do the math on how old I was. I wasn't too far away in age as your brother, and he's a face that I will never forget until the day I die. And it just it was a horrible night. I'll never forget it. It was a horrible week, but it is really great to see how I think the state and the communities have rallied around your family and really rallied around the marathon as a whole. I'm glad to feel that every Marathon Monday, and I'm glad to hear it from you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Nicole Lynch, thank you so much. Do you want to do, can we do a quick, we always end the show with rapid fire. You would be the first one that I don't end it with. Can you do a couple quick ones with us?
I can try.
All right. We'll end this on a nice little uplifting into the weekend sort of thing here. All right. Favorite musician?
Oh, probably Jason Aldean.
All right. Favorite movie?
Probably Coco, because it's all kids' movies in my house.
All right. Favorite sporting event?
Hockey.
Hockey. To watch, yeah. All right. Very good. Favorite class in school?
Science.
Science. Okay. Favorite teacher? You remember the influence?
Oh.
Drop.
I had a teacher in elementary school, Mr. Tilsley. He was pretty great, and I'll always remember him.
There you go. And speaking of always remembering, if you had to let somebody who didn't know your brother, what would be the quick one sentence how to describe Sean Collier?
He did everything right.
Simple as that. Nicole Lynch, thank you so much. I appreciate the time, and I know you've had a busy day. Thanks for taking a few minutes.
Thank you so much.
All right, Nicole Lynch, the sister of Sean Collier. Obviously probably one of the tougher interviews I've had to do, because it's such a divisive issue. I can already see the comments that will be popping up when everybody just feels so strongly about this, and it's either Black Lives Matter or support for polite police, and people feel like you can have both, and people don't understand why one group is saying this. And anyways, I hope we represented that okay. Nicole's family is clearly upset with how police are being treated these days. And I think a lot of people feel that way. Like I said, I know there was a protest that was very big right here in my hometown when the Thin Blue Lines flags came off the fire trucks. So, and that being said, I mean, you completely have to understand why, especially in this case, the Black Lives Matter movement, why you have the Black community here who feels disrespected when they do see the Thin Blue Line flags. And I get that point too. If they're upset about it, who am I as white 33-year-old Drew to say you shouldn't be upset about that? If you're upset about that, you have to listen. And I think listening on both sides, listening listening for everybody. Let's not say sides. Listening by everybody here in 2020 and really, really listening is probably a good thing and a good lesson. Let's take that one to end the week and take that into the weekend here as I say goodbye, live from Drew's house, another edition. Big thanks to Nicole Lynch, the sister of Sean Collier. Like I said, I will never forget his face. I'll never forget him. That was a brutal week of the marathon bombings. But yeah, we'll never forget him. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next week. Drew Mohlland. Bye-bye now.